In Beast of Bermuda, Ichthyovenator takes the role of a semi-aquatic predator. It has been in the game for a long time, however only recently received a brand new remodel makeover. Being able to travel both land and sea, semi-aquatics like Ichthy have the best and the worst of both worlds. They often encounter bigger, stronger, and even faster predators on both sides, but Ichthys are versatile. To play Ichthy, you must adapt to your threats, and that usually means not straying too far into either territory. Ichthy's preferred food is fish, and this means that you receive satiation from eating fish. They can also eat meat, but eating meat does not grant you the same satiation benefit that eating the fish does. So Ichthys are a great choice for a variety of playstyles. They can be a good choice of dino for players who like a laid-back gameplay. They're also a good choice if you enjoy exploring the world and don't want to be restricted to a certain area. They can even be good choices for more competitive players as well, just because Ichthys can be strong fighters in the right circumstances. That brings us to the topic of talents. There are a few different routes that are viable for Ichthy. Many players like to go speed build for Ichthy, and honestly this isn't bad. You can get swim speed and other talents that will help you traverse terrain. Getting the dart talent is also nice. You can also easily go speed combat, taking the speed talents that you want to get and then spending the rest of your points on power talents. Or if you want to spec into a battle Ichthy, you could also very well max out like Aqua Affinity and then just go full combat for the rest of your talents. Some anti-Moza talents to pick up are Slippery and Thick Hide. Most Ichthys could probably afford to get one or the other, but if you expect to be fighting Mozas a lot, then getting both of them would be a good investment. So I would say that Improved Dart, Slippery, Thick Hide, Aqua Affinity, Strong Legs, and Strong Lungs are all pretty nice talents to have for Ichthy, generally speaking. As some of you may have noticed, I don't typically advocate for survival talents for most creatures, aside from weather resistance and comfort. It's the same for me with Ichthy. I don't find myself personally needing survival talents very often. They're nice to have, but not really a necessity for Ichthy. I do get weather on Ichthy just in case I'm out on land and can't find shelter, but since Ichthys don't get struck by lightning while in the water, many people skip weather to spend their points elsewhere. So if you do go far down the survival tree, I would recommend also investing partly in other trees, maybe grabbing some of the talents I mentioned earlier. But yeah, like I always say, always experiment with your talents and make a build that's best for you and your own play style. So now that we've discussed some good talent points to invest in, let's talk about some possible matchups. There's a lot of variables when fighting in Bob, so do keep in mind that some scenarios will depend on sizes, talents, and skills of the player. Ichthy has both a right mouse button and a left mouse button attack. On land, the left button is a bite, and right button is a claw swipe. The biggest difference between these attacks are where its hitbox is at. In water, Ichthy's right mouse button is its dart, which it can use for fight or flight. Since Ichthy has enemies on all sides, let's talk about Ichthy versus land carnivores first. So Ichthy is pretty slow on land, but otherwise it has decent stats when compared with other mid-tiers. When fighting on land as an Ichthy, your best bet is to stay near a deep water source like a big lake or ocean in case you need to escape. If you're out in the open, you are vulnerable to faster carnivores such as Megalo. But Megalo and Ichthy is a pretty straightforward match. Megalos can definitely ass ride if they get behind you, but Ichthys do dominate in the health department. So if you have some combat talents and are in a defendable position, you really should be able to hold your own and win against a Megalo. Anything bigger than a Megalo is really difficult for Ichthy to fight. You will almost certainly lose like an even battle against like an Acro or a Rex. A group of Ichthys can maybe fight a single Apex, although you're still taking a risk. So Ichthy does do a good job actually defending itself against Velos due to its claw swipe. So if Velos are trying to ankle warrior you, definitely take advantage of your claw swipe attack. When it comes to herbivores, they are a bit dangerous. Parrots tend to be pretty risky and aren't usually something I'd go for as a solo Ichthy. Packies can also get you pretty good since it's hard to avoid them as Ichthy. Now with Apados, I've seen groups of Ichthys do a surprisingly good job at fighting solo Apados. Very big Apados past a certain size can be a little bit unhuntable because, you know, their stats and the range of their tail whip increases with size, so just because of Ichthy's slower land speed, I wouldn't really go after huge Apados, and I would only go for solo Apado targets, but Ichthy versus Apado is fun. Now, Lurdu versus Ichthy is balanced, although I would say Ichthy is slightly better just because they're a bit more mobile than Lurdu. In water, Ichthy actually outspeeds Lurdu because of its dart. Although Lurdu's dart is fast, it can't use it as much as Ichthy can. So it can't really compete in that aspect unless it gets dart inherits. Even when fighting Lurdus on land, I would say Ichthys can still outturn them. So Lurdu's backsides are really vulnerable, so I would target that. Try to avoid their stomps if you can. Depending on your talents, you can probably tank 1 or 2 stomps, but if you're not careful, it could also end the battle for you. Ichthy versus Moza is in a pretty good place, I would say. You can usually avoid Mozas if you're vigilant and dart away from them, but if a Moza does get close, they can grab you. So long as you have slippery and thick hide, you're in a pretty good spot to defend yourself. Take advantage of your dart when fighting them. You can currently out-dart Mozas, and you can actually chase them down with your dart. So, Ichthy versus Elasmo is sorta dicey, but I'd say it's also evenly matched. Elasmos have better reach and are faster. A good Elasmo player with the right talents can definitely kill an Ichthy. On the other hand, Ichthys can also kill Elasmos. So it's one of those matchups where it really depends on the scenario. Now Chronos, even small ones, are the most difficult sea creature to fight. It's certainly possible if you have enough numbers. They're super tanky and deal a really crippling amount of damage. I usually go after them while they're small. Big Chronos are very dangerous. That's not to say that you shouldn't try it, but just understand you're taking a big risk.